Yeah, it is kind of soon for another comments video, but guess what? I've been getting a lot of comments lately, and this one, well, later on you're going to see we have a very zesty commenter to give Kuleana to. But I wanted to start off first with Jason XR4 Jersey, whom I just did a reaction video, a Coral Blade Grotto video, addressing Jason's use of AI and also using my material, and you can check that video out to see what happened there. You can find a link to it over up there somewhere in the upper starboard side corner of the screen. Hopefully I'll remember to put a link up there. If not, there'll probably be a link to it at the end of this video. So Jason, the person who published that video, responded, and this is what they said. They said, "Hey Jason," yes, my name is Jason also, "I am sorry for having the audacity to post such a video using your content and AI together." Now folks, what does that sound like to you? Does it sound like he's sorry? That he's truly regretful or remorseful for having audacity? That's like someone saying, "I'm sorry for having the courage to speak what's on my mind." It's not really an apology, is it? From my perception, 54 years of contracting with folks all over the earth and seeing scenarios like this play out again and again and again, it doesn't come off as any type of sincere apology. That's my perception of it, just by the way they worded it. Like, if they wanted to apologize for it, well, first, right off the bat, if they wanted to use my content and things like that, the relationship that he and I had, I would have thought that he would have contacted me and said, "Hey, I was thinking about this. I had this idea. Is it okay with you if I run your stuff through AI and then publish it in a public video on YouTube?" Being that we're friendly, right? Now, if you're an enemy, or if we're not friendly, then of course I would expect that to happen, right? No one's going to call me and ask for my consent or permission to use my material to run it through some AI program, which I despise. And I've made that quite clear. And Jason, whom I thought was friendly in those terms, didn't even ask me about it, or didn't even run it by me. So if something like this comes to my attention, well, of course I'm going to address it. So that's the first thing. Why wouldn't you have the integrity, the thoughtfulness, the kindness to contact me with regards to your idea? So he didn't do that. So, yeah. Said, "I can confirm that I do not have closure on the grammar." Well, yeah. And grammar spelled with AR at the end, by the way. But yeah, that's obvious. "Nor am I a fan of the other characters that you mentioned. I was not paid by anyone, and my intention was purely experimental, just to see what happens when I feed your correct sentence structure into just one of the many different AI language models." It doesn't matter how many models there are of AI. They're all shit. And none of them can create a correct sentence structure, nor do they comprehend it. Because how can AI comprehend anything? How? It's just an automated thing going through reams of data. It doesn't have a creative capacity. And Jason, I mean, I know there's people out there that like to do this, and Jason's one of them. But leave me out of it. I am sorry you feel it has a negative effect and is a distraction from the technology. Again, he's sorry. He's apologizing that I feel. He's apologizing for my feelings. What the hell kind of sense does that even make? Like, what? I'm sorry how you feel. I'm sorry you hate me. I'm sorry you love me. I'm sorry. No, that's not. That doesn't make any sense at all. All right? So I'm not sensing any type of remorse or regret or any type of genuine apology here. I feel, and this is my guess, that Jason doesn't feel like he did anything out of pocket or out of line. Which, I mean, again, you know, he's a big boy. He can think what he wants. Not sure now whether or not to delete and remove from a YouTube now that you have made a video pointing your followers to it. I'm actually pointing them to it to watch it to see what to stay away from, Jason. And as to whether you remove it or not, it's completely up to you. Of course. I would never tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do. I will email later today to clear up any misunderstanding. Oh, I'm sure there's no misunderstanding, Jason. At least not on my part. I fully cognize what has happened here. And from this comment that you've just left, I fully cognize your position now. You definitely didn't do this out of ignorance. It was definitely your volition to do what you did. And it is what it is. But thanks for responding, and I look forward to your email for further clarity on your end. This next comment was puzzling to me at first. I mean, it still is. It's a comment on a video I did called Marcus Christopher, space prison. And then this Martin individual just leaves an emoji. I'm like, what is that? What implication? What social implication does that emoji exude? Let's find out. So I went through a plethora of chocolate bar explications, and I'll give you this. It says, who uses chocolate bar emoji? The chocolate bar emoji is used to express love or hunger for chocolate in all of its forms. Look at this picture here. So I guess I got the answer to my question. Next comment comes from the Captain EXE, and they say, you got room temperature IQ or something. And then I say, I see that you're having difficulty formatting a simple question. Here's one way to do it. Do you possess room temperature IQ or something else? Or you could grow a set and make it a statement. You got room temperature IQ or something. And then I said, hope this helps, Junior. And then they responded that the comment was written that way on purpose. Genius. And I said, how convenient. It's okay to be stupid. Stupid. Again, the energy you bring here is what you will get back. And sometimes you'll get it back double. And the Captain EXE, it's really funny because when they say something like, you got room temperature IQ or something, they might as well be speaking into a mirror. Next comment comes from longtime viewer Tedberry Combo, and they say, voluntary and involuntary muscles movements. David Bayer has a good video on breathwork based on Wim Hof. All right, in the context of the video he's commenting on, it's I'm talking about what breathing is, how it's categorized in the context of the fourth way, which Tedbury, I guess, may not be familiar with based upon what they're saying here. And in that context, I had said that out of the 5 main centers in a human being, that the fourth way categorizes breathing as one of the instinctive centers functions. Instinctive meaning like blinking, swallowing, breathing, these types of things. So maybe Ted ought to go and research some of that, because it's sort of outside the norm. Member Sound says, I prefer a slower cadence. He's talking about, he or she is talking about a video where I gave some pointers on if you want to be a steward of your breath and use correct sentence structure in a foreign vessel and dry dock, for example, how to be a steward of your breath, a master of your cadence, speaking a bit slower than usual. And this was their opinion on that and their thoughts. They say, I prefer a slower cadence. I sense words hitting my opponent more efficiently this way. Now, see, that's all like a psychological thing. Personally, I don't think of like opponents anymore, or winning or losing, or anything like that, because I adhere to the 3 principles: the balance of the honor and the grace, the possession of peace and neutrality, and the maintenance of rule 1, rule equal. The only time there's an opponent is when those things have been pushed off the contract table, and now it's time to fight. Then I'll do whatever I need to do. But coming into it, as a vessel in the sea of space, contracting and navigating through these scenarios, there's no such thing as an opponent in my eyes. It's just contracting. Ways to contract where there can be if you're going to use a competitive mindset, a win-win scenario, basically, is the most positive outcome in these situations. When I exchange words with my perceived opponent, it's because I am trying to make them my friend again. Personally, I don't give out friendships that easily. If you want to be my friend, you have to earn that. So when I walk down the street, I'm not thinking of people as being my brothers or sisters or friends or anything like that. If I don't know you, you're not my friend. You're not my acquaintance. It doesn't mean that I'm not kind or anything like that, or friendly. It just means that I don't know you. You know, why? How can you be friends? A contract for friendship if you don't know someone. See what I'm saying? I consider everyone my friend, and I don't mind fighting to have them, I guess. LOL. Interesting. Enjoyed the video. You made me think. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the video. However, you know, it's not my volition to make you do anything. And actually, quite literally, no one can make you do anything unless they force you to do it. Right? And I hope you don't feel that I'm doing that. But I'm glad that I perhaps, how shall we say it, cultivated your knowledge with your consent. So I said that's an interesting psychological perspective. I'm glad you enjoyed my video. What would you rate your percentage of correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax knowledge from 1 to 10? A very specific question, by the way. And then they say, correct sentence structure knowledge is at 50%. So I said from 1 to 10. And then they said 50%. So why do you think they didn't say just say 5? So this is what I'm talking about. Now you may say, oh, this is not a big deal, you know. It's like, why you got to be a stickler for details? The reason why I have to be a stickler for details is because that's what it takes to successfully perform with this grammar. You have to fucking pay attention to the details, the directives, all these things. Okay? You can take a Russell J. Gould document and you can find literally typos and spelling errors on it. Nobody cares. I care. And so that's why I'm pretty much the only person out here doing this with correctness. And when I say with correctness, I mean literally the finite mean of what correctness is. It's a contract with navigating together along the same tract, along the same path. That's what correctness is in the context of correct sentence structure. Okay? I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying correct in the context of this grammar. That's why I'm such a stickler for this stuff. Although I feel compelled to say it's at all the percentages. LOL. I don't practice using. Well, if you don't practice it, then you definitely don't know it, for sure. I try to live off of others through a bartering approach. You live off of others. That's interesting. Perhaps through a psychological approach as well. If I was to label myself, I call myself an observant nerd. That being said, I see there is a mathematical formula used within the correct sentence structure: forward and backward reading, addition, usage of marks, labeling of words, and numerical value issued. I would have to make sure I have dictionaries on me to execute the usage, I presume. Well, the most important thing is to have a dictionary that you are the author of as a lexicographer. You would create your own correct sentence structure dictionary written in correct grammar in the context of quantum grammar. I see human against human still unpredictable no matter what tactics are used, though unfortunately I feel that psychological warfare is inevitable and that words are noise but sound to some. I sense discernment is a crucial key in all matters of life. Opinions. Thank you for the question. It's a good way to get me to babble. I feel grateful to have a gifted membership and notice how I get them often. This also makes me feel bad, as I wish for it to go to someone who would want it more than I, though. But I love your channel and love to participate with the more psychological leaning videos you have made recently. Looking forward to more. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate your viewership and your comment. And wish you well on your journey. This next comment is the start of the zestiness I was talking about at the beginning of the video. Although the John Wick is not the zesty one. The zesty one will come after this comment, but this comment sets it up nicely. So this comment is on the video for the claim of the live life, full stop, which features :DAVID-WYNN: Miller, and in a sort of sideman, Batman and Robin capacity, :Russell-J: Gould, who kind of sits to the side like a good apprentice would. And David does all the talking. So John Wick says, oops, unknowing this information about placing a blood signature on a court document, I have done this. Then I had copies made to give to the man and woman of the clerk, man or woman acting as judge, prosecutor. I did have state police call me about it, however. I haven't heard anything more from it. Now, I did let it sit for about an hour or two before having them make me copies. And even though the ignorance of the people about illness scares them, no, there was nothing in my blood that would harm anyone, other than their feeble emotions programmed in by the parasites wanting the ignorant to remain in fear that some deadly lie floating in the air is going to kill them if they don't run to suicide lines to be poisoned with so-called cure. Ask the Africans back in the 80s how well Bill Gates' poison and his method of defense turned out for 120 million plus Africans he murdered with those shots back then. All right, so to address the thing about the blood signature, I never said that you shouldn't do that. You know, you can do it if you want to do it. What I'm conveying is what :DAVID-WYNN: Miller once told me in a conversation, that he advised not to do it. because it's not necessary to use a blood autograph. I would never signature anything in blood, because a signature is a signature. It's a sign of your name. It's not the name itself. There's no authority, incorrect sentence structure contained in a signature. It's a sigil. It's cursive. All right? Or a blood thumbprint. He said, I'd advise you not to do it because they could construe it as a biohazard. You know, biological warfare. You never know. Why give them ammo if you don't have to, when you can just as easily autograph it with wet ink? So that's just what I was saying there. So then this individual, Fiddletown 2002, chimes in under the previous comment. Keep in mind, it's under the previous comment. It's under John Wick's comment. They say, but nothing you post is true. If you can't prove what you say with verifiable, credible evidence, there's no reason to believe. And I wish that I would have copied the whole comment or screenshotted the whole comment, but it is what it is. It's an accident. I wasn't able to do that. But basically, who are they talking to? Are they talking to John Wick, or are they talking to me? Because the video they're commenting on, I'm not even in the video. It's DAVID-WYNN, Miller talking. So who... Well, anyways, let's continue on. I said, it's true what they say about you. You do sound like an owl. I was trying to set him up for, you know, where they respond back, who? Right? Then I say, typical online troll behavior, a pseudonym for a username, 8 subscribers, and no content. You have so much more credibility than 1,300 plus free videos and 6,000 plus subscribers. Keep watching and commenting. So then John Wick chimes in, and they at me in this, and they say, and you're probably someone who thinks a person is a man or a woman. And then they address Fiddletown. They say, the ignorant are none the wiser. And a funny part about your statement, maybe if you did a little research, you would realize that everything that I posted has some major truth to it, but I should more or less say facts. But the ignorant that are none the wiser don't read into things and just research. Read into things and research. They just talk shit and troll people because they're ignorant. So remain ignorant. I don't have time for it. Of course. But they had time to write this comment, of course, and the one before it. But now suddenly they don't have time. And then I respond to the thing where they say that I'm probably someone who thinks a person is a man or a woman, and I say, and you're probably someone who doesn't know anything about quantum grammar, which is a grammar of 1 and 1 is 1. You can keep your fiction activities over there in Narnia. If you want to learn about correct grammar, then you have 1,300 plus free videos to study here. My gift to you. You are welcome. John Wick says, I love the brackets. I guess that's supposed to mean nothing, right? Brackets, or am I the only one that's supposed to be able to see what's inside that bracket? Where is that part of syntax, parse, grammar? And I actually posted a link to a video where I give closure to why I use brackets. And I posted it in this comments field. And then John Wick says, I think I might start to love you, man. And no, I don't know syntax grammar as of yet, but I'm trying to learn it. And then I say, although love is a wonderful thing, it's neither required nor necessary. Only respect and an open mind. Welcome. And then here's the link to the video that I made 7 years ago. Folks, I've said this ad nauseum, and I'll say it again. Any grammar question you have, if you go to the main page of my channel, don't go to the YouTube search bar. Go to the channel search bar and type in brackets. This would come up. This video. So then I posted this video that I'm going to play for you regarding Fiddletown, titled Fiddled Around and Found Out. What is the mark of a troll? Of an internet keyboard quote-unquote warrior? Well, it's the use of a nom de guerre, it's the use of a pseudonym. It's not using your correct name or putting your picture in your profile. And that's exactly what someone named Fiddletown 2002 has done. They commented on a video that I published over 6 years ago about the claim of the live life. And they said, but nothing you post is true. If you can't prove what you say with verifiable, credible evidence, there's no reason to believe you or take you seriously. Again, they don't specify anything. They can't point anything out. They just make generalities. Well, nothing you post is true. Really. That's called in logic circles, that's called a logical fallacy known as false premise. Okay? Everything I post about the grammar is quote unquote true with verifiable, provable, certifiable evidence, which I have provided in the videos themselves, of which the video that they are commenting on is one of them, because it's not me speaking in that particular video. It's actually David-WYNN Miller. So it's not even me in that video that they're commenting on. So what does that tell you? It tells you, well, it tells me that Fiddletown 2002 is a complete, utter, 100% troll. So then they post this comment. On the other hand, when I post comments in which I make a statement which I assert are fact, I support those statements with actual verifiable evidence. So if I assert that the courts reject David-WYNN Miller's concepts in quantum grammar, I provide citations to published court decisions so finding. For example, and note the multiple references to Miller's in the decisions. All right, so first of all, notice, I've said more than once in the comments and in that video what a troll is, and the fact that Fiddletown uses a nom de guerre, does not use their correct name. Oh, that just like blows by. They have no interest in being held accountable for what they're saying. They just prefer to be a little pussy and hide behind their pseudonym. So then they go and they post, like, here, let me zoom out here. All this stuff, which is adverb, verb, adjective, pronoun, fiction, babble, cases, which anyone can find on the internet. The thing is this, and I've said this in multiple videos, and I've said this to Fiddletown, that they can find me explaining this stuff. The fiction will never, ever meet the fact. So in the fiction court cases, of course it looks like David-WYNN Miller, like the case was dismissed with prejudice or whatever the hell they say in their judges' opinions. But what Fiddletown fails to cognize, or I don't know if they don't cognize it, or they're purposely just doing this just to agitate or whatever it is. A dismissal is what we would call a success in correct sentence structure. The fiction will never, ever, 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 ever admit to the superiority of the fact. And that's what this individual, for whatever reason, is not seeing. So in relation to this video, Tedbury Combo says, I think he may have gone blind from self-fiddling in Fiddletown. And then Fiddletown says, on the other hand, I describe reality, how courts actually decide cases in real life in the real world. This is not theoretical. I'm explaining how things really work in real life in the legal system. Yes, we get it. You're in the fiction system, Fiddletown. Kudos for you. Why are you here? Like, channel is for people who want to learn correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar, and music successfully to stop a bureaucratic trespass from your fiction legal system. Period. The law is what it is. Believing in imaginary law doesn't do anything positive. What imaginary law? I have never said anything about any laws. Matter of fact, I have actually said the opposite. I've said that I don't participate with the concept of law and correct sentence structure. Because law is fiction. Again, your fiction legal system. The one that you know so much about and participate in. In real life, in the real world, the legal system decides through judicial process disputes. No shit. No shit. We already know this. Arguing. Yes, arguing happens when there are opinions. When the facts are present, there can be no argument. That's why these cases, when done with correctness, using correct grammar, correct flag mechanics, correct postal mechanics, correct banking mechanics, etc., they're dismissed because there can be no argument when the facts are there. That's why it's successful. Keep saying real life, real world. Do they even know what the word real means? If they parse the two elements, the RE and the AL, because yes, real is two syllables, two particles, RE and AL. So I said, I did a voice reply. I said, Fiddletown, I've explained in numerous multiple videos ad nauseum how correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar actually works to stop the trespass of the fiction system. Now, if you're too lazy to go and research and search that out yourself, you may contact me. So I give them my email address if they want to continue this discussion, if they want to step up to the plate, credential themselves, use their correct name, and meet me on a geometric level playing field of communication such as a video chat. Let's do it. Step up. Take your balls out of your boyfriend's purse or your boyfriend's fanny pack and contact me and let's talk about this. Of course, they completely ignore that and they ignore sharing their full correct name and taking accountability for their words. So this tells me they're definitely a troll. Here's the thing. Parsing syntax grammar might be a perfect system that obviates all ambiguity and uncertainty. Nonetheless, your thoughts perfectly expressed in parsing syntax grammar will meaningless gibberish to anyone who doesn't subscribe to and is insufficiently proficient in it. You see, again, this individual, now they're trying to concede something, right? Oh, well, it might be correct, but no one understands it. Well, that's the whole point of learning it, doofus. Learn it so well that you can teach it to someone, which is what you will most likely have to do if you go into a foreign vessel in dry dock, i.e. courtroom setting. You have to be able to give closure on the spot. So if you and I, Fiddletown, have a case, and I use correct sentence structure to stop your trespass, and you say, oh, I don't understand that. I don't understand. What is this gibberish? Well, then, I'll teach it to you. And then if you say, well, I don't want to learn it, well, then you don't want a contract, do you? You don't want to understand my side. You only want your side. So you don't want Rule 1, Rule Equal. You just want to say what you say and ignore what I'm saying. Well, in the world of Rule 1, Rule Equal, that doesn't work. That's why correct sentence structure is successful when used with correctness. I don't know how many different ways I can say this. I really don't. I say, well, Fiddletown, you just don't get it, and I offered to explain it to you. I gave you a venue for closure. I gave him my email address. You're not addressing any of that at all. You're not addressing anything else. You're not offering to say who you are or anything. You're just blah, blah, blah. So I don't think you really want to know. I think you just want to talk on someone else's channel just to talk. So no more comments from you will be published. Thank you. So here's a couple more. So you us brackets, so what? That's not standard English. It's meaningless to anyone who doesn't subscribe to your system. Are you a subscriber, Fiddletown? And actually, if you're talking about my system, it's not my system. I don't own it. I don't own anything. I use it, but it's not mine. So if I want to learn correct grammar, I need to learn your system. It's not my system. Okay? If you want to learn correct sentence structure, you would learn correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar. That's what you would learn. But if your system isn't in common use, what does it accomplish? I've already told you that. It stops bureaucratic trespass. I've watched bunches of videos on quantum grammar, but I've never seen any verifiable, credible evidence that it has any useful application in real life, in the real world. Well, then I guess you really haven't watched my channel, have you? And to wrap it up, they say, and I'm sure you'll have the same lack of success as all the others who have promoted quantum grammar. This individual is definitely one of the most ignorant individuals. And by ignorance, I mean no knowledge, that have ever commented on this channel. Are they unaware that I've been doing this for 9+ years? And I've been 100% successful with using correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar to stop bureaucratic trespass? That I have a whole file folder that I've showed in other videos with dozens of cases that I've been successful with, as well as with clients, hundreds of students all over the earth. It's 100% success with it. The reality is all sorts of attempts to impose from outside some logic and order on the human language don't go anywhere. Human language evolves organically. Yeah, so 100% troll, Fiddletown. I think what I'm going to do is just completely block them from this channel because they have no desire to make anything fair or to be open to anything else except for basically what the Buddhists would call the sound of one hand clapping. It's just them yapping and they're not paying attention to any other feedback that's coming in. So, in case they don't cognize what I've been saying in the comments and also verbally, I have some sign language for them. This is for you, Fiddletown, right here. Caveat emptor, que sera, sera.